What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Pandemic Update for Thursday, June 1st, 2023. Hopefully everyone is staying safe. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you tested negative. However, if you are positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery. Alright, starting off today, active COVID cases in India have dropped to 3,925. They added another 288 cases, and just 2 new deaths were added today. Who remembers the Singapore Prime Minister testing positive? I do. We reported on it. Well, guess what? He has tested positive yet again. Singapore's Prime Minister tests positive for COVID again in what they're calling a rare rebound case. We've seen this happen in celebrities before. If you remember, Joe Biden, our president, did have a rebound case. And he says, my doctors say it is a COVID rebound which happens in 5 to 10% of the cases. Moving on to this. Canberra, health services ask community to reconsider hospital visits after COVID outbreak grows to 22 patients. This is in Australia. Kind of hard to reconsider when you're having a sudden medical emergency that is out of your control. You can't just sit there and say, oh, I'm going to pray and hope I'm better. I don't need treatment. No. When you're in a medical emergency, you do need treatment. I get it. They're talking about the more minor stuff. Reconsider coming to the hospital. But at the same time, this just shows what Australia's going through as they're entering winter right now. And it's looking like it's going to be a double whammy for the hospitals again here in the United States. And I am saying that because Australia often is a predictor of what is going to happen here as we head into the fall. We saw this happen last year in Australia, and look what happened in the fall in the United States. There was a huge surge of RSV, flu, influenza-like illness, and yes, COVID cases were high too. The hospitals got slammed here in the United States, so this is not something we want to see. It's a bad indicator for the UK, for Europe, and for the United States, and even Canada. Take a look here. This is something we're just going to read a headline on, because we'll have more on this later in the video. Is COVID back in New York City? Wastewater surveillance shows virus is rising. Well, we're actually going to look today in the New York State data, something we have not showed before, from the New York State Department of Health, and that is their wastewater data. We've looked at it before on the CDC map and other methods, but we haven't actually looked at it via the New York State website. And I was looking at it today myself. I said, hey, let's share this. All right. Court rules Austria can't be held liable for early COVID infection at ski resort. You may recall back in the early days of the pandemic, I believe this was in, it says here, March of 2020, there was an outbreak that was ongoing at a ski resort over there, and a lot of people got infected. I don't know how many died. I would have to go back and look that up. But the point is, court has ruled, this is their federal Supreme Court has ruled, they cannot be held accountable for this. Moving on to our next story, and this is a sad one. Florida native journalist Amy Sachs dies at 38, but leaves a courageous legacy of giving life to others. And then sounds like her death has to do with a pair of strokes. Now, some are saying on Twitter, perhaps she might have had a COVID infection at some point. It's hard to say whether she did or not. Given it was the state of Florida, you could assume she may have, but right now, we're going with what the article says, and that says she had a pair of strokes that ultimately led to her death. We don't know what her prior medical history was. The point here is she was only 38 years old. That's too young. We shouldn't be seeing people pass away of stuff like this at such a young age. It's just wrong. It shouldn't be happening, but it is happening. H5N1 bird flu has killed more than 8,000 sea lions in Chile. That is up from the previous number of 5,800. So we saw the increases that are going on in Peru, and now Chile continues to go higher. This is not good. This was originally reported on by Infectious Disease Tracker, and they always do state their sources. It was reported on yesterday. We're just getting to it today. Walgreens did have an update this week. Walgreens national positivity was 22.4% this week. The prior week was 24.2%. difference of down 1.8%. We do want to look at a couple states that we have not looked at yet this week. Wisconsin is at 28.1%, and Nebraska is at 38.5%. Remember last week, Nebraska had that random zero? Yeah, we knew that was wrong. And the previous report before that, 35.3. Now it's up to 38.5%. The reason why the difference is so high, because there was an error. They didn't report anything last week. All right, moving on to this day in pandemic history. On this day, back on June 1st of 2021, the COVID-19 B.1.617.2 Delta variant, first identified in India, becomes the dominant variant in the U.S. The variant begins a third wave of infections during the summer of 2021, and boy, what a wave that was. It was a real bad wave here in the United States, and that was when the media called it the pandemic of the unvaccinated, and then by fall, well, we started seeing all these breakthrough cases. On June 1st of 2022, the U.S. recorded a total of 84,145,569 COVID-19 infections and 1,003,571, more than 1 million deaths from COVID-19. And we know the actual number. It's legitimately much, much higher than that for cases. And as we know for deaths, even at that point in time, it was much higher for both of these numbers because, we were missing a lot of cases. And some of the missed cases were probably missed deaths as well that never got counted as COVID. Taking a look at the national wastewater, we don't have much to update or tell you about here. New York State, you can tell here it's not on here, but we do have another method we're going to be showing you in a little bit. Taking a look at the latest variant proportion. We will not have a variant update tomorrow. We will have one next week. The latest variant is XBB.1.5 is in the lead at 53.8%, XBB.1.16 at 15.1%, XBB.1.91 at 11.8%, XBB.1.92 at 6.1%, XBB.2.3 at 4.8%, XBB.1.16.1 3.9%, XBB.1.51 2.2%, and FD.2 is at 1.5%. New Jersey, 196 people in the hospital, 10 people in the ventilator, 20 people in the ICU. That is an increase for the ICU number, which continues to go up. Hospitals reporting 70 out of 70 today. Taking a look now at Pennsylvania. I wish we could look at Pennsylvania. Did not update this week. I hate to tell you this. I think Pennsylvania is finally, the weekly updates, I think they have finally ended here in my state of Pennsylvania. But let's take a look at the totals from Philadelphia County yesterday for EMS incidents. 717 EMS incidents yesterday. It was a very busy day. And this picture you see here, I want to show you this real quickly. This was the big fire I was talking about yesterday. Remember there was the big junkyard fire I was talking about over near Interstate 95? There's the smoke that was released into the air. And yes, it did impact the air quality for a short time in that section of the city. Let's get a live look at and see what's going on in the suburban areas of Philadelphia area right now. And you can see, yes, there are some calls, but 12 calls at this time of day, that's about where it should be. That is normal. Taking a look at Chester County, this is not where it should be. Now, there are a lot of calls on here, but you have respiratory difficulty, you have unresponsive person, unconscious person, stroke, syncopal episodes. Yeah, it's busy in Chester County right now. This is busier than what it should be for this time of day. All right, moving on now to New York State. New York State reports another 589 cases. That does not include infections or at-home tests. 4.6% positivity. 7-day average is 4.1%. Now, taking a look at New York State wastewater. And we can actually pan around and zoom in this map. Of course, it updates right when I get to it. New York State data always seems to do that. And when we take a look at the data here, you can see that there are some orange and red sites. So let's start off with the low percentage. And totally low sites are at 6, moderate are at 53, 0 to 25%. There's 52 wastewater sites at that. 25 to 50%, 34 sites. 50 to 75%. There's 12 sites. 75 to 100% COVID in the wastewater. There's 10 sites for that. And look where that's at. It's down in the New York City metro area. We're starting to see more and more wastewater sites come up as high. And look at this. This is not good. We're seeing a lot of these down in New York City. And this is a highly populated area. So this is not something that we want to be seeing. And when we take a look at, central New York, rural New York, we're seeing it here as well. Now you come out to western New York, and there's a few sites that are in the high. You have low to moderate out in western New York. And how about upstate New York? Let's check that out as well. Upstate New York is not terrible at this time, like Saratoga area. Saratoga is not doing terrible at this time. They are in the low to near moderate range. All right, moving on to New York State hospitalizations. Of course, I have to zoom this in because, yet again, a piece of New York State data is updating on me or refreshing as I come to it. And you can see here, New York State hospitalizations for today is at 545, 59 people in the ICU. And when we take a look at New York City for today, New York City reports 186 people hospitalized and 25 people in the ICU. All right, taking a look at Texas. Texas is much lower this week. Why? Because last week they dumped a bunch of lagged data. For the current week, 3,675 new cases. Currently hospitalized, 643, and deaths were just down by 1 this week. 36 people have passed away versus 37. All right, taking a look at the international pandemic update, I'm going to refresh this because there's chances are we've seen some updates since I refreshed this a little bit earlier. South Korea, cases are down 13%. Deaths are down 24%. France, cases are up 76%. Deaths are down 33%. Brazil, cases down 24%. Deaths are down 14%. Singapore, cases down 28%. Deaths have not been reported. Australia, cases down 71%. Not really, I don't know if that's actually accurate or not. And deaths are down 66%. And the reason why I say I don't know that that's accurate, because they are seeing a huge hospital situation going on right now. And a part of that is because of other things, RSV and flu, but their hospitals are pretty well slammed right now. I've seen several news stories that back that and confirm that. The Philippines, cases are down 10%. Deaths have not been reported for this week. Greece, cases down 54%. Deaths are down 15%. Mexico, cases are down 13%. Deaths are up 19%. And then we come down here to Italy. Cases are down 84%. Deaths are down 82%. Romania, cases down 63%. Deaths down 78%. And we'll end today on Belgium. Belgium cases are up 14%. And deaths are up 117%. So that is not good to see. Alrighty, before we end today's video, I want to show you some of the work that I've been doing on the website. I am starting to get the COVID positive archive more organized, and I am starting to fix these past cases. I've noticed some of them I've had to fix a few things that, it didn't state what their occupation was or who they were, but I am starting to separate them. We have COVID positives. That's going to become a miscellaneous category. We have U.S. political figures, international political figures, public figures, actors and actresses, musicians. Musicians might get split up between U.S. and international musicians. We'll just have to see how that goes. And we also have sports figures and players. I still have 128 topics to sort through, and down the line, I will slowly start to add the people who tested positive at the beginning of the pandemic. All the early ones. Donald Trump, I've never added him. I've never added President Biden. So there's a lot of cases that I want to add. And eventually, you'll be able to go through here and look up just to see who has had COVID. It's really going to be the Wikipedia of COVID positives. And I think studies and papers. There are some old ones I want to add for that as well. That's going to become the Wikipedia of looking up COVID information, because people need to have this data at the hands really easily. Alrighty, that does it for today's update. My website is datareport.info. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button down below. And I'll see you all again next time. And until I see you again next time, Stay safe, everyone, and have a great evening.